From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 topics of the week that make us go wow. I am Fenton, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by James St. James, best-selling author and host of the Wow Podcast Network, Night Fever.
Yes.
And of course, our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell.
Howdy.
Has it only been a week since we last did
so much has happened.
This month, I swear to God, this month has gone on for 6 months. I don't understand it.
And we've only just begun.
We've only just begun, but we are here to rescue from all that with our countdown, beginning, of course, at number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
I finally saw The Last Showgirl, the Gia Coppola movie starring Pamela Anderson that everybody's talking about.
Yes.
And now I am. I have to put it in some context. I saw it the day after the inauguration. And the inauguration, which I'm not getting into deeply, and everybody feels this way. Not everybody, but a bunch of us. I feel sick to my stomach. I feel actually physically nauseous. I feel like what it must feel like when your parents divorce or when everything you thought you believed in was turned upside down. That being said, I go to the movies to escape. I want to see Pamela Anderson. We worked with Pamela Anderson back in the 2007's Girl on the Loose. She's always underestimated, and she continues to be. And this movie helps people to see her for what she can deliver, which is amazing. However, the actual topic of the movie, which is it's a Gia Coppola. It's very slight. It's very lots of blurry shots, and it's beautiful. I don't mind a movie like that, but it's
you saw it in the theater. You went to the theater.
I went to the theater, and it's like I'll make this equivalent to my alcoholic background. It's like her worst day, her bottom, the show's closing, her daughter like everything bad that can happen to a person. She has not thought ahead. She has no money. She doesn't know what she's going to do. She's getting old. She's being humiliated for her age. And I'm just like already vulnerable. I'm like sinking away. Like, this is weird. Now there's some redemption at the end, not earned in terms of the story, but it's beautiful. So it was a lot to take on for me in my vulnerable state. Pam it's a very brave performance. It's not flattering. She's not a likable, she's likable because she's Pamela Anderson and she still has that essence of that little girl in her, but it's a very mature role and it's she does an amazing job with it. Spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about the Oscars later. She did not get a nomination. I feel like Demi kind of stole her because there's usually one kind of nostalgic Oscar
older actress, fan favorite, yes.
But she didn't get that, but she should be really proud of it. I think it'll help people see it her own way. It feels like you're watching Pam, like to me, it's like, it is the perfect, someone called it like The Wrestler when, what's his face? Mickey Rourke did The Wrestler, and it was kind of like autobiographical without being autobiographical. Similar things with Pam in Last Showgirl. But someone steals half the movie. And that is Miss Jamie Lee Curtis, who
also did not get nominated.
You're right. Who is in a renaissance. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis has never gone away. She had, she's.
But she did have her Activia period. It was sort of a low point for her career, and
but she already.
I may want to be her character for Halloween.
You should. Have you seen her clips of her?
I've seen the movie. I love the music and I love the art direction.
She plays a former showgirl who's left and now is doing waitressing or bar, like the women that come up to you on the floor while you're playing slots, and they spray tanned her a color that would make Trump feel like, no, that's too much. And she has orangey hair, and she does apropos of nothing, which is what makes it beautiful. Is at some point she was a showgirl. She just stands up in the middle of the casino on a little tiny little stand and does an interpretive dance to Total Eclipse of the Heart. And it's reveling in her beauty, just like sort of fed up. I can't take it anymore. And she doesn't scream and yell. She just has this orgasmic performance. And she also is like body like they're in a locker room. She strips down to a G-string. She looks great, but it's a woman who's 60-something's body. And those images stick in my mind almost more than anything from the movie.
She went makeup free, didn't she, quite publicly? I was just curious if, like, you kind of answered the question. It sounds like she is very heavily made up, right?
Pamela or Jamie Lee Curtis?
Pamela.
Pamela is the tan shade. I'm talking about Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Pamela is both, because she's in show gear where she's very made up. She's still beautiful. The very end, you finally get to see the show, and there's something about her teeth and her smile. Again, you can't dim the sparkle that Pamela Anderson was born with. Even Pamela Anderson can't dim the sparkle she was born with her hard living. But it's very, you see her from the side, you see her from all these angles. And again, she's not Billie Lourd plays her estranged daughter. She's not a good mother. She's just flawed. It's one of those movies that doesn't attempt. It's almost like a 2-act movie, not a 3-act movie. And they don't attempt to sort of sew things up. It's just a slice of life.
Not being negative, but it sounds a little bit of a Nepo film, right? Because Gia Coppola is of the Coppola clan. And
yes.
I was curious about, and Billie Lourd is Carrie Fisher's daughter, right?
Jamie Lee Curtis is Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis's daughter.
Yeah, but
I have no problem with Nepo. I love Nepo.
No, not at all. Not at all. Does it have a mood parallel to Lost in Translation? Different director, I know, but the same clan. Because I felt that Lost in Translation was very unresolved, and bleak.
I've not seen Lost in Translation, but I've seen other Sofia Coppola films that always seem like they have no testosterone, like they're very circular and this is a little bit that way, but it's more of an art film. And to Blake's point, it's beautiful. It's done with lots of sun bursting through. It's the underbelly of Vegas too. Like, you never really see the big Vegas shots. You see the freeway in between you and the back of a casino, or something.
She was on The View the other day, and she was talking about the camera that they used, the film, and I think it was that same film, Fenton, that you were talking about with The Brutalist. VistaVision, is that it might
be 16 millimeter. It's very
blurry on the edges. Yeah.
People out of focus and things.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how, again, I'm warming up here in the first segment, but I recommend you seeing it, but it's a wallop. And God bless Pam Anderson. I want her to succeed. I want her to do more. I think it's a great moment for her and an amazing moment. Of course, she lost her house, but Jamie Lee Curtis is just such a force right now, and no signs of stopping. And that makes me excited. And Blake, Googling as we talk, because we're full of false things, says The Last Showgirl was shot entirely in 16 millimeter film, giving it a raw, grainy aesthetic that captures gritty reality behind the glitz of Las Vegas. It's nice to know that our fourth host is AI.
Thank you, Grok.
Yeah, Blake, you should change your name to some
Blake Grok.
Well, I thought you guys would paraphrase it.
Oh no, I just read what's given me. I'm just on the monitor.
Yeah.
This whole thing is scripted.
We are moving on to number 9.
Number 9.
I wish that I had seen Last Showgirl. I went with my sister. We were debating whether to see Last Showgirl or Babygirl. And I went with my sister to go see Babygirl starring Nicole Kidman. And dear God in heaven, do not see it with your sister. Do not see it with an elderly relative. Do not see it with your mother. It is so difficult to watch with someone. You feel like you should be in a raincoat. You feel like you should be there, like old men should be masturbating next to you. Ooh. It is a dirty movie. I'm going to be a potty mouth here when I talk about it a little bit, because the first scene, spoiler alert, she's having sex with her husband, Antonio Banderas, and it's a close-up of her, and she's, and she's oohing and ahhing and blah, blah. And then immediately after he finishes, she jumps off him, she runs into the next room, and she lies on the ground and starts watching porn of a woman who's like, yes, daddy. And she's like fist humping herself. She's like bouncing up and down on her fist. You're just like, what on earth are you doing, Nicole? And she's oohing and ahhing, and she's just pleasuring herself. It's just, I don't know.
What you're saying is this is the Nicole Kidman fisting movie we've all been waiting for.
Listen, if you like finger banging, and if you like watching, and if you want to see Nicole Kidman get finger banged, have I got a movie for you?
I saw your tweet about finger banging, but it seems you were a bit euphemistic. This is full on fisting.
She's got a knuckle sandwich going on up there. I mean, it is great. And so anyway, the story is that she's the CEO of a company, and there's an intern, Harris Dickinson, who is in Triangle of Sadness. He's very handsome, he's very gorgeous.
He was also in that wrestling Zac Efron movie.
Oh yeah, the Iron Claw, yeah. And he really is. He's so good, and he's so talented, and he's so handsome. You'd think that a movie about the sexual power dynamic of a boss and an intern, that he would be on the short end of the power stick, you know. But no, he's the one who has all the power in the relationship. She's subbed to his dom, and he, you know, get on your knees and lick the milk from the bowl like a cat, you know. And she, yes, oh yeah, you know, it's and then he sort of comes into her life, and he's like at her house one day when she comes home, and that's, you know, I mean, like, he just starts mind fucking her. He's just mind fucking her.
Is she guilty about this? Is this something she embraces? What's the
She embraces it. She tells her husband, she tells Antonio and Banderas at one point, I have never had an orgasm with you. In 15 years of marriage, I have never come once. Which, I mean, it's Antonio Banderas. How can you not come with Antonio Banderas? But anyway, and with him, she learns that she likes to be dominated, and she likes to be, she enjoys it, and she enjoys the humiliation, and he just humiliates her. And so it's
stay with Antonio like, what is, without giving it away, is like, what happens?
Yeah, no, I can't give that away, because that is sort of the crux of it, is like, how do you navigate this relationship at work when you have to see him, you know, at work every day, and you know, you're his boss, and you blah blah blah. So it is an interesting movie. Yes.
Well, I'm going to advertise this. A film review by James St. James that is not spoiled.
Sounds like artificial.
I'm leaving right now. I quit. That's it.
Artificial intelligent producers getting kind of sassy. So, all right. Well, that is Babygirl in theaters now. Number 8.
Number 8.
I cannot explain this, but I saw Nosferatu, the remake. Well, I guess it is a remake by Robert Eggers. Now,
yes, we've talked about it on the show. I'm so glad to get your input. I want to hear what you say.
Well, it's very painterly, very beautiful, quite long.
But that's not a good review.
No, long, lovely atmosphere. I think it's a very meditative film. You know, it's not about the action. It's I mean, I think a lot of his films, like The Northman, he just loves to sort of, it's immersive experience. Yeah. You sit in a world and strange things happen. And I mean, I've always loved the story of Nosferatu. I didn't realize that Nosferatu itself, the story, I thought maybe it was like based on a book. And the original film was 1922, F.W. Murnau. It's silent, black and white. And then it ended up being an unauthorized version of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And if you know this, tell me, but the estate of Bram Stoker ordered all copies of the film destroyed, and it disappeared for some years, I think, this silent film. And it wasn't until the copyright to Bram Stoker's Dracula lapsed, that Werner Herzog made his own version in 1979. And to me, that version is just, I just saw a little clip of it before. I haven't seen it in many, many years, but Klaus Kinski plays Nosferatu. And the Nosferatu in that one is Klaus Kinski is a monster and a demon, but he's so hot. He just
you don't think Bill Skarsgård is hot? You weren't lusting after
Bill? No, Bill Skarsgård, bless his soul, is a decaying, pustule-ridden.
But didn't you want to fuck that decaying, pustule-ridden
Hey, Fenton, some people like that, thank God.
I was
wouldn't
going
have
to
a love
say,
life.
I thought it was a hot decaying corpse.
Klaus Kinski probably has worms coming out of him, but Bill Skarsgård has worms coming out of him. Klaus Kinski, and like he has those suppurating holes, and you can see the bones. And oh no, you don't want to have sex with Bill Skarsgård in Nosferatu.
James did.
I did.
Okay, well, I don't know what to say. I was just about to say that Klaus Kinski is like Gary Newman, and I fancied Gary Newman back in the 80s. And be all that as it may, this version of Nosferatu is very welcome because it's just so immersive and Count Orlok. And I think it's such a great story, very similar to Dracula, where, you know, the Count from Transylvania travels in his coffin because he has to always sleep or be in a box in his native earth. So he can travel, but only in a coffin with his earth in the bottom. And he goes on a boat, right? And in the crossing, the crews start to disappear. He's on board the SS or the HMS Demeter. And the ship washes up in a port in England and rats run off. So there's this sort of parallel between the vampire and his progress and the plague. And this sort of analogy with, it's just all very, what is it? It's sort of atmospheric, I guess. That's the only word.
It is atmospheric. It stayed with me for days, and I had dreams about it. And I felt, I'd look in the mirror and I'd see myself as Nosferatu. I really identified with this. And I do want to say, though, that the horniness of the movie, you can't deny it, because not Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson, beautiful boys. Lily Taylor Depp just is so gorgeous in it. Yes. And Bill Skarsgård is just, he's a monster, but he plays, you know, Pennywise. He plays this. He's so good at being a monster. And the idea that Lily Rose Depp's character thinks of sex, her sex and sexuality is frightening and terrifying and scary, is why she manifested a frightening and terrifying, sexy, you know, he's the manifestation.
Right. And the vampire drinking the blood is very intimate, isn't it? It's like a sort of ultimate fuck, I suppose, really, you know.
I want them to make Bride of Nosferatu and use Glenn Close in the makeup she was in that Lee Daniels Deliverance movie. Remember that? Where she played the mother with the tiny teeth?
I love it. I love a pitch. Let's take a break. Blake, do you have a question?
I do. Okay, so you guys all drive, right?
Yes.
You know, the white lines or the broken lines on highways, how long do you think those are in feet?
Thank you, Blake. We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James. Blake has the answer to a question, but I just do want to say it is a very big week on Wow Presents Plus for Drag Race finales. We have the finale of Drag Race Thailand. We have the winner of Drag Race España Season 4 has been revealed. You can catch both those on Wow Presents Plus, of course, with all your other drag races and many other originals.
I was speaking of broken lines on highways. How long do you think those are in feet?
I think they're 6 feet.
I think they vary in length according to whether it's safe to overtake or not. I don't think they're consistent in length. Like when it's dangerous to overtake, they're very long. And when it's safe to overtake, they're very short.
Well, yeah, when the lane turns, it's like shorter dashes. But the main ones are 10 feet long.
What?
Yeah. And the spaces in between, 30 feet.
What? Why they go by in a blink of an eye? I can't believe that. That's crazy.
Why I asked. It's so nuts.
We are counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow, and we've reached number 7.
Number 7.
Netflix. You never get 100% behind it. Not because if you work at Netflix and you're buying shows from World of Wonder, just keep buying because I love Netflix. I'm just saying for my own personal curation, it feels like a lot. There's a lot on there. There's so many choices. I of course, go there when I hear of things, and that's probably what it is. I'm just of another generation. But so I'm here. I'm staying at an Airbnb first time, and there's no broadcast TV. So I'm having, like, you click on and you can watch Netflix. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. I have different. There's a dishwasher. There's so many things here. I'm like 60 years ahead of my place back in LA here. So I watched Back in Action, the Jamie Foxx, Cameron Diaz, her return to film after 10 years. And it's a very simple premise. They are spies who are secretly in love working for the government. They end up, dying, and no one knows that they didn't die. They've survived something where everyone thinks they're dead. So they decide to get out of the life they're going to go. And so 10 years later, we pick it up, or 20 years later, 18 years later, they're a suburban couple. They have 2 kids, and they get sucked back into the life. So it's mom and dad kill people in front of us is basically the premise of the movie, because now they're on the run with the kids. Glenn Close, aforementioned, plays her mother, who is also a spy. They're estranged. It is a paint by number 80s movie done with the gore and special effects, some cheap, and I don't care, of today. You can say the next line that's about to be said. It's very, very predictable, but I enjoyed it. And I who doesn't like Jamie Foxx, who almost died making this film? Who doesn't like Cameron Diaz, who's just such a movie star? It looks so good still. I watched it with my friend Greg, who used to work out at Equinox with her, and he goes, it was a joy to watch her work out because she was just so in it. Anyway, it gets panned as predictable and it's like
the funny thing is I haven't heard of this. I don't know anything about it. It got no publicity.
It's number 1. It doesn't need publicity. It's on Netflix. It's number 1 on Netflix. And it was famous because you remember Jamie Foxx got very sick in the hospital for a long time. It was during the filming of this movie. And it's also a big deal because Cameron has been away for years.
Wonderful to see her back.
And I think she's back because she also is she's doing all the press, and she says I would do a mask too. So I think we need more Cameron Diaz. I don't know what to say. You guys watch more Netflix than I do, but it was there used to be
but I'm with you that Netflix has devolved into mostly crap. Now it's hard to find good stuff on Netflix.
But I enjoyed it. They touched all the little sensors in my brain that made me surrender. I don't know that I would do that every night. I would imagine if you're a young person watching this, you don't have 90 movies to compare it to that are just the same. So you're like, wow, this is kind of clever.
And let me just put it in a little bit of context in that Netflix just revealed a huge jump in subscribers. I forget how many hundreds of millions, which was followed by an enormous jump in their stock price in literally 24 hours. Just a crazy amount.
Well, maybe that has to do with all the how they inherited all the Hallmark and Hallmark movies. Remember, maybe they got all of the MAGA crowds.
Didn't they
also doing those live things with the?
Oh yeah, the live. They did the Beyonce. They did the inauguration
and the Jake Paul fight. Didn't they also raise the prices of subscription?
They did. Oh, and then they raised the prices. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is a pretty phenomenal, I don't know, takeover of everything.
They're firing on all cylinders now. But there was this story I heard on an NPR a long time ago that said that if you spoil a movie for someone, if they know how it's going to end, they like it better. People want to know where things are going. So there's something about the thing.
Let's move on, James. I want you to be mean and cantankerous about the next topic, number 6.
Number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
You have to invite. You feel you have to invite James to be cantankerous.
Now. Once again, I'm leaving. That's it. I'm done. I'm done with all of you. So on General Hospital, there is an actress. Bless her heart. I love her to death. She's a great actress. Her name is Amanda Setton, and she plays a character called Brooklyn Quartermaine. BLQ, they call her. BLQ, Brooklyn Quartermaine. And the actress is religious. I think she might be Orthodox Jewish. I'm not quite sure. But the fact of the matter is that she has to be covered. Her arms are always covered. Her legs are always covered. She has a high collar on. She's always in turtlenecks, high collared button down shirts and everything like that. And that's a problem when you are on a soap opera. And she, out of respect for her husband, she won't do love scenes. Okay. Now she is paired with a guy named Josh Swickland, who is one of the handsomest guys on the planet. He's, General Hospital right now has a dearth of good-looking guys. He is a standout among the guys. He is a hot guy, and she's hogging all the screen time with him, and she won't do love scenes. Now, the characters of Brooklyn and Chase are trying to have a baby, and what happens is they'll say, "Oh, nobody's home. Let's run upstairs and try and have a baby." And they'll run upstairs, and he'll chastely kiss her on the cheek, and this film will dissolve, and then it will cut to afterwards, and she's in like a turtleneck and a robe and tights, lying in bed with messed up hair, and he's like, in his underwear, shirtless. And the thing is, maybe she shouldn't be a soap opera actress if these are her restrictions, because part and parcel of being on a soap opera is you've got to show skin. You've got to be sexy. You've got to sex it up.
You were just complaining about Nicole Kidman banging her husband and going.
Well, what would I give to see Amanda knuckle herself? I just say that anyway. Yes. But the problem is that when you have a hot guy, you want him constantly to be, frolicking in the.
I have a solution. Her character should convert to Judaism. Done.
Well,
Done.
But I mean, it just is a problem that she has placed these restrictions on the writers and everything, and that it's SoapNet. I know this backstories of all these things, and people talk. I follow General Hospital forums on.
It feels like potentially a very controversial topic that I wish not to comment further upon.
Well, no, but I respect her, and I respect her religion, and I respect her boundaries that she's set for everybody, of course. But the fact of the matter is in the genre that she's in, people have love scenes, and she won't.
Why can't he go have an affair? That's what people do.
Yeah, he needs to have an affair. I mean, they're a lovely couple, and they're wonderful together.
What if another solution? I'm very solution oriented today. What if they put her in a green screen suit and then they project flesh onto her in post?
Well, no, but the problem is that she doesn't want to disrespect the relationship she has with her husband by being.
It doesn't have to be her body.
Accidentally summons Nosferatu. Who sucks her blood.
Well, like I said, it's a very comical, and Twitter always erupts every time you see them in bed, because she's like in a scuba diving suit and he's like, in his boxers, and it's very funny to see the two of them, and you're supposed to believe that she's trying to conceive a child when she's like, dressed from head to toe.
Well, I hope they sort themselves out soon. Number 5. Tom, over Christmas, we were both in New York, and I think I went to see some of the same shows you went to see. I saw Gypsy. Yes. I saw Death Becomes Her.
Yes.
And I saw Sunset Boulevard.
Wow. Yes.
All three are about exactly the same thing.
Yes. I agree with you. They're all about women of a certain age.
It's the substance. It's the substance. It's the last Showgirl. It's the same thing. Yes.
Exactly.
We are in a
Yes. But I do want to talk a little bit about Sunset Boulevard because I love the original film Sunset Boulevard. And I saw Glenn Close. Amazing. Glenn Close in the first Andrew Lloyd Webber production of Sunset Boulevard. This is a complete reimagining, right, Tom? And Nicole Scherzinger there has been much acclaimed for her portrayal of Norma Desmond. I think, though, the show actually belongs to Tom Francis, who plays Joe Gillis. And I think that even though it feels like in the movie he's a bit character, I just felt he ended up being the glue that holds the whole production together. And that's no shade to Nicole, by the way.
No.
He was amazing. And never more so than the whole way they sort of brought film and television into the theater. And that is this a spoiler alert? I think not.
We talked about it.
That after the interval, that Joe Francis comes from his dressing room, walks all the way out onto the streets. And in fact, just the other day on Instagram, he was walking with the cast in a blizzard, basically. Yes. Yeah. And they were all bundled up. Because I was watching, I thought, is that live? So, when you go to the theater with friends and you kind of, after the show, what do? And we're like, oh, we should go have a drink. And there was this tiny hole-in-the-wall restaurant right next to the theater. I think it was called Asia River. And we were just sitting in there talking about how great the show was and all, you know, catching up. And I looked around, and there at the counter was a pair of shoes and trousers that I was like, where have I seen those before? And I was like, oh my God, it's Tom Francis. I could only see the back of him, but I'm like, it's the star of Sunset Boulevard at this restaurant ordering takeout.
Wearing his costume?
In his costume trousers. Because the thing about the trousers was they're all short. That was the oddest thing about the show. Like, they all wore short. That was the fashion, I guess. I don't know.
But keep going. I want to hear about Audra.
What?
I want to hear about Audra.
Audra, who starred in Gypsy. I think he's in the middle of telling us.
I'm in the middle of an enormous story, James.
Okay.
Which you cut that out all the way through.
And continue.
As we're raving about his performance, he looks up, turns around, we make eye contact. I'm like, oh my God. And we all burst into a little applause and give him a little standing ovation. Broadway. And the poor guy's just on his break from the matinee, getting his takeout food, waiting for it to go. And we all say, oh, you were so good, blah, 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 and turn back to the bar. And blow me down, little Elliot 9 was with us. He walks over while he's waiting for his order and chats to us for about 15 minutes. Oh. And he really connected with Elliot. And Elliot was asking him all sorts of questions, like, why did you take your shirt off? And why were you naked? And he was explaining that it was so that the blood would show up. And then Elliot asked him to go with him to see Sonic 3 on Monday. And said,
Elliot was hitting on a Broadway star. I love it.
and Tom was like, I'd love to go, but unfortunately I have a show. And so it was just a very sweet, lovely
great Broadway story because they're such huge stars, but they come out the door next to the, like they're right there with you.
Right. And he was just so easy to talk. I'm sure. I mean, he is brand new in the sense that we were saying, how did you, get this role? And he's like, I think it's the first time he's been on Broadway. And I think it's the only thing, the second gig he's done. His first gig was in a TV series or film series or something. I mean, it's literally his second gig.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I mean, incredible.
I think by stripping everything away as they did, which could have just been a gimmick and it could have fallen apart, I think it revealed a lot about the play, a lot about the characters. I don't know, you saw things in a way that you hadn't seen them before, and yet the story holds up. It's kind of timelessly, even though it's a period piece. I really enjoyed it.
And because I'm such a purist about this, about the movie and about the Glenn Close version, and I just don't understand how it can be stripped away like that.
I love that they can both exist.
It's very clever, and it's like a version on a theme. It's like the original movie. Because the one thing this version doesn't have is kind of the camp and the excess. Because, as you say, Tom, it's been stripped down, but they've brilliantly brought in the whole notion of film and television into the theater, which is just so good. So,
I thought it was campier than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be very serious. I thought there was.
Wait a minute. Blake is saying to move on, and I want to hear about Death Becomes Her because I just watched the movie again this week, and I want to hear about Gypsy too. You haven't talked about any.
Just trust me. Just trust me.
Yeah, we'll get to them later. I hate people. People hate me. Episode 1 is now streaming for free on YouTube.
Well, let me just say, I hate all of you, and all of you hate me.
It feels very apropos then, doesn't it? It feels very timely.
I love you to death, James. I'm doing a promo for Wow Presents Plus, which is I hate people, people hate me. Have you seen it?
No, but it looks really funny. I have seen the stuff you've been posting. It looks really good.
Genius.
Absolutely. I don't have a subscription to Wow Presents Plus. You guys cut me off.
James, it's only $4.99 a month.
I've worked for you for 25 years. I can't get $4.99 a month.
Netflix don't give subscriptions away.
You are the worst.
Let's take a break.
To you.
And after that, the question is, what is the sport called that combines soccer and dancing?
We'll have the answer right here on the Wow Report after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton here with James and Tom and Blake.
And I just saw this on social media, and I will send you guys the clip because they look like fools. What is the sport called that is a combination of soccer and dancing?
I'm going to say it's kicks, K-I-X.
No.
Suck dancing. What?
It's called disco foot.
Oh, even better. By the way, that sounds like a new podcast coming out on Wow Presents Plus.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm going to send you guys the video or the link. You have to look at it.
Okay. We're counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. We've reached number 4, Tom.
Number 4.
I was so deeply moved. I told you I was sick to my stomach all week. The sight of a salute behind the presidential seal on Inauguration Day is something I will never forget. I will never forgive. And then a day or so afterwards, Bishop Mariann Edgar Budde, I think is how you say her name, was, the first family. All of them were in the front rows of the church for like a sort of a ceremonial mass, or I'm Catholic, so I say mass, but service. And her sermon was about unity, which, by the way, I believe I've heard our president, not that I feel like I have to do any rationalization of the Trump agenda, because it doesn't deserve my putting logic on top of it, because I believe he's an agent of chaos who will destroy whatever he has to in order to make as much money as he can. But she just talked about the ideals of America, because you all saw the part where she directly says to him, mercy on the immigrants, mercy on the strangers in the Bible, mercy on the LGBTQ people. But the whole thing, which is just, she talks about, again, it's just so brilliant and just so non-controversial. It's like God bless America. It's just everything that we believe in. But she was so articulate, and in that context, so brave to perform that, to say that.
See their faces as they sneered and they looked down their nose and got visibly just seething, writhing in fury.
They're just like rotten people at a restaurant. They're just like the worst.
Melania's face, and they just curled their lips up, and you saw JD Vance look around like, who is this chick? What does she think? Who does she think she is? And there, Tiffany Trump. Oh, all of them just terrors.
And so there was all this backlash. Here's what she talked about before she got to the mercy thing, which again, she talked about the ideals of America, which are outlined in the Declaration of Independence, and that there's this innate human equality and dignity, and that we are looking to be, for unity, we need God's help. And the foundations of unity, Jesus said, like, the house of faith has to be built on rock, not sand. And it's our faith. And so she's all drawn from the Bible. And she says, honoring the inherent dignity of every human being is the birthright of being a child of God. Unity, that we're all children of God, whatever God that might be. And refusing to mock, she said, discount, or demonize those we disagree with. Something maybe we just did. So, I
do want to just say I was raised Episcopalian. There was an Episcopalian service, and Episcopalians have a long tradition of being very LGBTQ inclusive. They're they're famous for that. They have the women bishops. They're very much about all of that. And I didn't go that much when my mother lived here, and she would always go. I would go with her sometimes on Christmas. And Tom, they do something that I think you would enjoy, which they do the blessing of the animals one day a year. And everybody brings their pets. And so they always say, don't work with children and animals. And it's always like 3-year-olds with a cat going down the aisle to bless their kitty. And it's like ferrets and parrots and dogs are running loose and the birds are flying. And it's always a chaos in the best possible way. And that is something that the Episcopal Church is. I got to say that, I'm not a big fan of religion, but the Episcopalians do it right sometimes. And she certainly did us all proud.
But she sort of outlined 3 points that bring us, that you have to have in order to have unity, something that even Trump and the Republicans supposedly talk about. And one is this honoring the inherent dignity of every human being, that we're all children of God, whether you're a migrant worker, whether you're a president, whether you're rich, you're poor, that we have this in common, and to respect each other. And then 2 is just honesty. There's no use praying if we aren't honest. And again, Trump's agenda.
The MAGAs went bananas saying that she should be deported, that she should be fired for this.
And the last thing, again, these are not controversial, is humility. We're all in need of it. We're all fallible human beings. We all have our biases, our blind spots. It's just, again, it couldn't be more just what is the fabric of all what we all try to be. And that's why I find so upsetting. It's like, if this is not our compass. And again, I think we all fail miserably every day, right? But you have to have goals. You have to have, and we don't anymore in our leadership. And we'll see what happens. But anyway, I think
sadly it fell on deaf ears, because the backlash she got has been outrageous.
Directly quoting Jesus Christ from the scripture. Yeah. So it's like,
and there's nothing out of order. If you're going to campaign on a Christian ticket and say you're a Christian, surely it's perfectly legitimate for a leader of the church to talk about Christian values. And
did you see that when he tweeted it out the next day, this so-called bishop, he wouldn't even acknowledge that she was real, like he was trying to discredit her.
Absolutely. And let's also remember, Trump is obviously not a religious man, just not putting his hand on the Bible. It just was not an accident. Believe me, it was not an accident. Well, don't believe me. I just don't think it was an accident. In the same way that the ADL saying that, in a moment of enthusiasm, Musk made an awkward gesture. No, I don't think so. But also, Tom, I know we don't want to talk about this long, but I think humor itself is a great way also of sort of resisting and having some sort of perspective on what's happening. So making that, which is a self-justification for this.
No, we are absolutely loud. And I don't mean to be a bummer, but I just letting you know, like, I'm always trying to skate above and look for the positive and look for the solution. And this week I've been drawn under a few times. That's all.
Beautifully said. James, number 3.
Number 3.
Well, I was going to talk about Soupdrops, which I don't know if you've seen. They're cough drops that taste like soup. Progressive has put them out. They taste like chicken noodle soup, apparently, and you suck on them. And I went to go get them, but they were sold out everywhere, so I'm not going to talk about them. But I do want to just very quickly mention the other big news of the week was that ketamine was approved by the FDA this week for use in treating depression. Johnson & Johnson is coming out with a nasal spray, a ketamine nasal spray that has been approved by the FDA and will be available at drugstores near you soon. And all I have to say about that is that I was never happier when I was on ketamine. I believe it treats depression. And the only time I was sad was when I ran out of ketamine. So
you're ahead of the game as always. I just say this whole idea, because a lot of people will say, well, Matt Perry was using ketamine. He was abusing ketamine.
He was abusing, and this is microdosing. It's a nasal spray and everything. But I will say that, for 30 years, I've been saying this, and I wrote a book called Party Monster about how ketamine helped me through a little murder situation that I was dealing with. And if you want to read about how ketamine helped me through that, then you can buy it on Amazon. So yeah, I've been on the curve ahead, as you said, ahead of the curve for 30 years.
I might pop with some Soupdrops and read that book.
Some
nasal spray. Yeah, I think
I was a cat queen long time ago.
A very successful regimen for the next 4 years or however long it's going to be. All right, number 2.
Number 2.
I don't want to bring it back to this, but I do want to talk about it a bit. After the election, it was like a sort of depressive anxiety. And what happened earlier in the week was like the blunt force trauma of this thing arriving and happening. But before that, I started reading this book because in a way, it's always baffled me how it's been possible. What is the sort of weird alliance between the right wing and the Christian evangelists, what is it that they really have in common? Because the two were never, I mean, yes, I suppose with Nixon and Reagan, the two got put together, but they weren't naturally bedfellows before that, were they?
No.
And this book, I think, is fantastic. It's like, oh my God, of course, everything makes sense. It came out in the summer 2024. It's called The Longest Con. It's by Joe Conason. And the full title is How Grifters, Swindlers, and Frauds Hijacked American Conservatism. And it tells this long story beginning with Roy Cohn in the 1950s, the moral majority, the attempt to bring down Bill Clinton, the Tea Party, and of course leads to Trump. But he draws these incredible parallels, how the thing that both groups have in common is the desire to rip you off. And that, funnily enough, they succeed most successfully by ripping off their own followers, whether it's exhorting poor widows watching televangelism to send in money that they can't afford, or whether it's getting you to buy crypto coins on the eve of becoming president. And I'm laughing about it because it's so insane and outrageous. And I have thought that perhaps all of this nightmare will come to an end once the followers of these cults realize that the only people being harmed are themselves. But unfortunately, this book depicts this history that actually these con people, these grifters and swindlers, they're very successful because people are quite happy to be swindled. I mean, never more so. I mean, this book came out in June. Joe Conason must have been like head spinning around with the crypto coin thing. Not just Trump, not just Melania, but then the preacher who gave the benediction blessing launched a crypto coin, saying, I need you to go buy my, it's like, I just can't find the words to articulate the craziness of it all. And the sort of, it's like some kind of weird stock bubble. It just keeps going up and up and up. The fraud, the cons, the swindles, the scams, they get more and more blatant, more and more in your face. It's surreal. Anyway, this book is a fabulous book. I really recommend it. It's called The Longest Con. One more break. And when we come back, the number one thing this week that made us go wow. Now, one thing it is not is what happened on Monday.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton here with Tom and James and Blake. And it's been quite a week, but something very exciting happened yesterday. So number one thing that makes us go wow is...
Number one.
The Oscar nominations were announced this week. We don't probably have a lot of time. There's 3 quick bullet points I want to hit. One is I loved seeing Rachel Sennett and Bowen Yang present the nominations. I thought they were a delight. 2, I am thrilled that Sebastian Stan, who starred as Donald Trump in The Apprentice, the movie, and Jeremy Strong, who played Roy Khan, are both nominated. I think that's excellent. And 3rd, I am shocked, outraged, all that kind of fake stuff, that John Cho, who is the director of Wicked, was not nominated. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't want to take up a lot of time. What do you guys think?
Very quickly, I was shocked that Nicole, Angelina, Pamela, and Jamie Lee were not nominated, as we've mentioned. I think Kieran is a lock. I watched A Real Pain this week. I think he's a lock for Best Supporting Actor. I think Zoe Saldana is a lock for the win for Amelia Perez. I don't think Amelia Perez is going to win anything else. Tom, I asked you to watch it. Did you?
I did, and I texted you back, and I thought it was amazing and remarkable and breathtaking, and I need to see the movie.
Yeah. That is the high point of the movie, and that's what she's going to get the Oscar for those 5 minutes right there by herself. I think that Wicked will do what Lord of the Rings did. I think Wicked won't win anything this time, but when the second part comes out, they'll win the awards for the second part. And I am hoping that Demi will pull it off. I think that she will give an Oscar speech that will leave us sobbing for hours afterwards. And I'm very happy that Yura Brezhnov was nominated for
Honora.
Honora, yeah, he was sort of a surprise that came out of nowhere, but he's so good, and I was really happy to see him nominated.
Wicked got a good number of nominations, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna win anything, though. I really don't. I think it'll get next year. It'll get wins.
And I was surprised that the Brutalist one got so many too. I think something like 10, or like the second most amount of nominations.
I do also want to say very quickly, though, that Amelia Perez is riddled with cliches, and there's a lot to dislike about the movie, but we need to take the win as the community, because this is the first time a trans actress has ever been nominated in the Best Actress category. And it's a win. We need to accept that, because it's going to get grim for trans people, and this is something that's good to happen. And if you look on the comments on like the Hollywood Reporter with the nominations, and everyone like, that's a man. People are so anti-trans right now that this is a moment that we need to hang on to the glory that is our trans sister.
I will end with something very controversial. Which is glad media did not nominate her.
No,
because they were not happy with the trans portrayal, which
that
is happening in our country right now.
Yeah, we need to embrace a win when we have one, because we aren't going to get many wins coming up.
I just leave it to GLAAD to get the wrong end of the stick, no matter how good their intentions may be.
Don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Yeah.
Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go, wow.